I want to call to the stage the next speaker. He is the CEO of Deep Instinct. I'm sure you've all heard about Deep Instinct. I want to call to the stage Bess.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. And for those of you who don't know me, although I can see some business associates and even some customers in the audience, my name is Bess. I am a serial innovator, entrepreneur, and I love to fix the most challenging cyber threats. A little bit more introduction. I was the early CEO bringing Palo Alto Networks to its IPO. Then I went serially and did a company called Zscaler, took that to IPO. Those two companies, $95 billion market cap. So I do like to go big by solving the most difficult challenges. So why am I here? Why did I get off of my couch? The black swan, the game is changing and the new challenge is here. So, I'm going to use some of the things we've heard already, but I'm going to perhaps put a little bit of a different spin on it. We call AI now the next revolution. I'd like to think of it more as an evolution. I can even think back to my days at Carnegie Mellon when AI, and I don't want to date myself, was being talked about. But the game is different now. AI, as we know, and I don't want to repeat what many of the presenters have said here today, is being used for very useful things for consumers and for businesses. But as it was said as well here today, this is going to be a very threatening and critical attack vector for many of the bad actors. And I don't think we yet fully appreciate how challenging this is going to be. So I give you this picture here, which really speaks about the history of where we've been, where we're going, and how difficult it's getting. I can even think back before my time at Palo Alto Networks, when I was the president of Trend Micro. To a good degree, we were able to keep up. It was pattern files, heuristics on the endpoint, and ultimately, we still had a big challenge keeping up with the bad actors. In fact, if you take a look today, the situation, because of the use of more sophisticated attacks, not even at the beginning point of where we're seeing AI, more sophisticated attacks, it's getting to be more challenging. In fact, I'll use the term unknown threats. This is what really concerns me and what got me excited about Deep Instinct. First as an investor, and now as a CEO, looking to make the next company that solves a very critical problem in the enterprise and for government agencies. So if you take a look at the challenge that's being faced today, 72% of the threats are unknown threats. Now, there have been a lot of important innovations brought to market. In fact, I credit companies like CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, bringing EDR to market. I missed that one. That was just like next-gen firewall, proxy in the cloud, EDR. But EDR, even in itself, is not addressing the difficult challenge of unknown threats. Sophisticated machine learning models, using the terminology of AI, can in fact increase efficacy, and we'll talk about this term efficacy here. Efficacy to perhaps 90, 95%, and a lot of people feel comfortable with that. But the reality is that it's the other 4 to 5% that gets you to 99% plus that is the challenge. These unknown threats are the things that we worry about, the things that we call today ransomware, zero-day threats, and this is only going to be on the increase with generative AI. I think a few of the other speakers teed it up very nicely. Karen, Udi, at this point, we don't even know, and I think even the general mentioned it, we don't even know what we're yet to see in terms of unknown threats from the use of sophisticated AI. So what do we do with all of this? In fact, this is why I call this somewhat of a black swan moment. And for most people, might not fully appreciate it. I'll go back to Eric's presentation from Google. He appreciates it because it's the security operations center operators. It's the people within the enterprises that have to respond to these threats. Tremendous human resource, and you still have this gap, and the gap's probably only going to get bigger. We haven't seen it yet. So I'm not trying to put a scare tactic, but perhaps the most important way to characterize the challenge of using a traditional machine learning model or some of the old technologies, even multiple layers. We've talked about layers of security. We've talked about identity access. All of these will not escape what I call, in a more pictorial way, the burning forest fire, the house on fire. And again, what I say to most people, in fact, I'm proud to say I've got 40,000 customers worldwide, and all of the global 2,000 are customers of my last two companies. So I spent a lot of time with them, and the conversations they're having, and I'm going to use the word for the first time here yet today, how can I prevent these threats from happening? Because to date, the challenge has been detection and remediation. And again, I point to some of the recent developments with EDR providers, mostly an endpoint solution. But detection and prevention is only going to get you so far, because guess what? With the traditional tools, even with the most secure, most sophisticated machine learning AI models, you'll get to 95% of known threats. It's the unknown threats. And these are the kind of things that cost companies downtime, critical assets. And I want to also introduce another point here. This is about data. Again, we all know this. We're cyber experts and experienced people here. It's about bad actors getting access to companies, governments, the data, and the information. So you can set up fences and multiple layers of defense, but we're going to see sophisticated AI breaking through them. And so the way I characterize it, if you have a more traditional layered security model, even using machine learning AI, you're kind of the proverbial garden hose trying to put out a forest fire. That's how hard it's going to be. And the escalation of issues and the acts of tracking these down and remediating are going to become more costly, and the time gap between infection and the impact to the business or governments is going to be significant. So I kind of characterize it as the only way you're really going to address this is to fight fire with fire. So I've used a few terms here. Prevention. In recent years, the mandate from boards, particularly when the companies are impacted, from executive teams has been to their CISOs, their security operations centers. What is our detection and remediation strategy and plan? I believe, and it's why I'm so excited about Deep Instinct, just like the innovations at Palo Alto Networks, Zscaler, I believe that the mandate is going to be, what is your prevention strategy? How can you prevent this? And to that, I'll introduce an AI term, perhaps not yet used today, at least not in the sessions I sat in on, deep learning. Deep learning is a subset of AI, very sophisticated, and that's the basis of what Deep Instinct was built. So I look for the big problems to solve, and 6 years ago, when I first saw this company here in Tel Aviv, the aha moment came on. And I said, look, sophisticated attacks, the notion of being able to say to a customer, and I've had a lot of them, look them in the eye and say, I can predict and prevent the threat that's going to hit your enterprise. Of course, in most cases, come on, Lane. What else are you going to try to sell me here now, right? But the reality is, deep learning AI provides the ability to not only predict and prevent. So it is the way we fight fire with fire. And I hate to come up and do product pitches in terms of audiences like this, because I'm really here to paint the bigger picture, that prevention is possible. The game is going to be stepped up by generative AI. the attackers are going to have a field day in many different ways, and the AI sophistication is going to have to keep up. In our case at Deep Instinct, be ahead of the attackers. So when I look at this problem and how it has to be solved, and I'll perhaps point you to the right side of this slide, it is about efficacy. It's about efficacy around unknown threats. I love the MITRE testing. We all know MITRE testing. When we see the results of this, everybody kind of ends up in the same space, 92, 94, 96. A lot of this is around known threats. You can even write the tests in a way that the results come out pretty good. But it's about the unknown threats. Deep Instinct and efficacy. And you don't have to take it from me. Major banks are using us, major insurance companies, manufacturing, healthcare companies. 99% plus efficacy. The ability to see what others can't find in the unknown threats. Sophisticated deep learning capability. But perhaps equally important, and I'll go back to Eric's presentation for those who might have seen Eric speaking about Google's efforts and their efforts to reduce the burdens on SOCs. It's about low false positive, low load to be able to create less work for the SOCs. So in closing, I want to just talk about the services are under attack. I spoke earlier as well, data is the target. Your customer's information, your company information, your government information. And that information is not only an endpoint issue. That information sits in your S3 buckets. It's in the files you transfer in and out of your organization. We've created a platform, a deep learning platform that plugs in easily to meet the needs of specific customer problems, and more importantly, gives the ability for the first time ever to predict and prevent all threats, known and unknown. So I thank you for your time, and watch us. See us at the booth.